Hi, I'm Anya Richter. Welcome to today's Joy in Our Town. Joining us today is Dr. Charles Adams. He practices integrative internal medicine at the Full Circle Medical Center in Ringgold, Georgia. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here.
So you've got me saying it that way now. Ringgold, Georgia. Beautiful Georgia. We were going to talk a little bit today about this time of the year. Days are getting shorter, or the daylight is getting shorter, same amount of time in the day, but people are going indoors more or staying indoors because it's getting a little colder. What are some things that we need to look out for?
Well, one is to continue exercising. I will always hammer that just in respect to Jack LaLanne, but one of the tricks for exercising outside is to get a rain suit. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a rain suit, and then you can wear underneath that rain suit pretty much whatever you want, because it doesn't take much for you to stay warm. I mean, you don't have to, if you bundle up, it would take like 10 layers of sweatshirts and things, but if you just put on one rain suit, that will keep the wind off, it will keep the heat in, and if you just walk for 30 minutes in a rain suit, now if you stop and it's cold outside, and you stand there for like 10 minutes, you might die. You will not stay warm, but as long as you keep moving, you will stay warm, generate the sweat, and so that all kind of works out. And the sweating is one of our body's methods of detoxifying itself. And so exercising, that's one of the things I always hit with people is in the summertime, guess what? It's too hot. And in the wintertime, it's too cold. You know, it's like there were 3 days last year where people exercised. I mean,
well, you know, with our area, it goes from unbearably hot, 100% humidity, 95 degrees. You walk outside for 2 seconds and you're drenched in sweat, to cold. It's like we have maybe 2 days of fall and 2 days of spring. Those were
the days.
The 2 days that people actually got outside and well, you know, there are those diehards in this area too that are out every day.
Well, I kind of do that, but I do it very early in the morning when the traffic has died down, the air's cleaned out, and so, you know, when people try to tell me, oh, I can't go outside, I'm like, wait a minute, you know, I'm an expert. After 9 o'clock at night, I never did anything but get in trouble. Go to bed. You know, the TV isn't that interesting. You know, get up early and start your day with the exercise.
Well, good tip too, like the rain suit. Maybe there's people that don't know this, but farmers and cowboys know this trick. Wear pantyhose.
Yep.
And there probably won't be any cowboys that admit to that, but pantyhose help keep you nice and toasty when it's freezing cold outside.
Well, Joe Namath, I think, started that in the football players years ago. I don't know if anybody, but
so did that come before the fur coat? No, I'm kidding. We're way off track.
It came with it, but no, staying warm. It is possible to stay warm regardless of how cold it is. I mean, you might have to put on a hat. You might have to put on some gloves, but the rest of the body is really incredibly easy with just an inexpensive rain suit, and then you can just next to nothing underneath. As long as you keep moving, you will probably not get cold. So that's one thing. As the days get shorter and the temperature starts dropping off. Another thing is to check your vitamin D level, and this has been one of the most recently recognized medical, of medical significance, and the current range is like 32 to 100, and they will probably once again be revising that, but the gurus are saying that you really want it like between 50 or 60 and 100. So if it's 40, you really would like to get it up a little bit higher. And you can do a blood test. You can even order the blood test over the internet. I mean, there are a couple different places, and it isn't that expensive, and it's worth every penny, because that's one of the biggest preventive things you can do in terms of taking care of yourself.
Well, most doctors do that screening if you take a yearly physical, and the vitamin D, there's very few people out there, unless they are the everyday farmers, that get enough vitamin D on a daily basis. One of the things that I read that a low amount of vitamin D can cause is back pain, and how many people suffer from back pain? Yeah. So that's crazy. But what about the winter blues, or when people are staying indoors? Is that vitamin D related, or what does that actually come from?
Well, actually, the low vitamin D does play a role in depression, and if you ever take a test and it says, you know, hangnails, anything in the body, vitamin D probably plays a role in it. But the other thing to counter the blues is exercise. It's one of the best antidepressants in the toolbox. For some folks, just even going to a tanning bed is not a bad idea. I mean, there are more unhealthy things you could do. I mean, a tan is good. A sunburn is bad.
Right.
And you know, and there's something about the light, you know, hitting the eyes that can. I know you're not supposed to look right in the bulbs in the tanning booth, but getting light into the eyes resets something in our brains with regards to sleeping and waking up, and so that sometimes can play a role in the seasonal affective disorder. Somehow, you know, getting that kind of light has an effect.
Wow. Oh, see, that's sad. Seasonal affective.
Yeah.
I'm so smart to figure those things out. Well, what are some right now? Also, hay fever. I mean, you can't go anywhere without seeing the runny noses and the red eyes and all of that. Why is this time of year so important? You know,
that is a medical mystery as to why someone is sensitive and someone isn't. Another thing that can be involved in that is a lot of times the foods that we commonly eat and drink will sort of like prime the immune system, and then all it takes is a little bit of something else to absolutely explode. I mean, if you think about it, there's some folks that are allergic to bees or wasps, and you think about how much venom that is. I mean, it's smaller than, it's nothing. But in some people, it will, you know, kill them in a matter of minutes, and that's the interesting power that the immune system can have. And like I said, very often we don't think about it, but there's a lot that we do to ourselves with the knife, the fork, and the spoon, and the straw in terms of things we eat and drink, revving up the immune system, and then when the right kind of pollen comes along, you know, boom, we get the explosion. So, you know, looking at those things, trying to eliminate some of the dairy and some of the grains from the diet may help, you know, cool down the immune system. And then there's some different type supplements that might help to you know, sort of dampen the immune system a little bit. You know, in particular, we mentioned vitamin D and also vitamin C might help turn it down a notch. That's not primary therapy.
So you're saying if you have, and you don't even know you have it, but you have, let's say, a corn allergy or one of the grain allergies, you're hurting your immune system, so that when the hay fever comes around, it just really knocks you down.
Yeah, it's sort of like you're just it's an attitude looking for a fight or something. I mean, it's just, you know, you've set the stage and now it's, you know, it's ready to go.
So you need to take lots of vitamin C, is that, and what are some of the other things? I know D, just for all around good health.
One of the other best anti-inflammatories are the essential fatty acids, and one of the ways to get that, I mean, we're all going to eat, and that is to do the extra virgin olive oil. That's the essential fatty acid that tastes the best. And then any of the others, you know, may be the one that works best for you. And you know, you're trying to increase the omega-3s. We've gotten the omega-3, omega-6 thing out of balance, but you know, the fish oil, the flaxseed, the borage, krill oil. I mean, there are all sorts of different oils out there, and if it's a fish oil, make sure that they've tried to take the mercury out of it, because they might have just concentrated mercury, and that's not a good thing.
I just don't see how people can take fish oil personally, and I guess if you have a fish allergy, that one's out.
Not a good idea, but there are some fish oils that are tolerable.
Okay.
I mean, where you're not burping up a school of mackerel all day, you know, whereas it's easy to find one that you go, yeah. So.
And what's the role of magnesium? I know that you've told me in the past, and I finally got on the magnesium wagon for bone health. What exactly is the role that it plays?
It is absolutely huge. Magnesium is involved in like some 500 different chemical reactions in the body.
Wow.
It's involved in more chemical reactions than any other element. It's involved in all of the chemical reactions that make energy.
Okay.
And about 80% of us are deficient in magnesium. And let me give you a warning here. There is a blood test for magnesium, but it does not tell you what you'd like for it to tell you, and that is, hey, do I need magnesium? It's a blood test, and it tells you how much magnesium is in the blood, but it doesn't tell you how much magnesium is in the powerhouse of the cell. In other words, you've got the cell, and then you've got things within the cell, and then even further down within the cell, and so that's where we need all the magnesium, or not, that's where we need a bunch of it, right. And it's not, what's in the blood doesn't relate to what's that deep down in the cell. Okay. And so, as a matter of fact, this is kind of interesting. One of the common heart rhythm disturbances is called atrial fibrillation, and there's some docs that are saying, hey, if you got to keep them out of trouble, you don't want to run any kind of risk, you don't want anybody to have a stroke, but giving them magnesium, too much magnesium is diarrhea with the milk of magnesia effect. That's not good. But give them magnesium just under that dose, and sometimes they will stop having atrial fibrillation, which beats the heck out of getting shocked and having a pacemaker put in. And,
right, and the stents or the bypasses or any of the other heart stuff.
But the essential fatty acids are something that can also help cool down the immune system, as well as a lot of the joint aches and pains and things like that.
All righty, and so flaxseed oils, you were saying all of that, that's all in the fish oils, the flaxseed, the borage, that kind of stuff. Is there any easy way? I mean, can we go to our local store of any kind and have that stuff available for everyone, or do they need to talk to their doctor about receiving the stuff, or how do you?
Now here's what's interesting about that is some of the lights have gone on, and they've put out a pharmaceutical grade fish oil, I believe. I mean,
wow.
It's like, forget all that other, here's, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Well,
but you can go to I encourage people to go to an independent health food store and talk to the folks there, and they will usually steer you right.
I know that I had to take pharmaceutical grade vitamin D and for someone, I work outside in my yard every day, don't see how I could be vitamin D deficient, but I had to take a 50,000 IU pill so many times a week until my levels got back up, and then I started taking 3,000 a day, which I hope is not too many. But tell us how to get in touch with you.
It probably isn't, but check your vitamin D levels. Everybody should check their D levels about twice a year.
Okay.
And it's not expensive, and it's worth every penny. The website is drprevent.com, and then our office phone number is 706-861-7377.
And if someone would like to stop by your office, how would they do that?
Well, we're at the first or last exit in the state of Georgia. I don't know if I can say this, there's a new Costco going up there at that exit 353, just off of I-75. We're in what's known as the Gateway Mall there. Great place and great folks, and easy to get to, easy on and off.
And give me your phone number one more time.
706-861-7377.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
Great to be here.
Hey, Travis.
Get some friends, loser.
Bro, you all right, man?
Yeah.
Let me help you out.
Lean on me when you're not strong. And I'll
See you around?
be your friend.
Yeah.
Character.
I'll help you
Pass it on.
carry on.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
It won't be long.
Hi, I'm Anya Richter. Welcome to today's Joy in Our Town. Joining us on today's program is Dr. Rick Rader. He is the director of the it's actually the Morton J. Kent Habilitation Center, which is part of the Orange Grove Center. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, could you start off, please, Dr. Rader, and tell us a little bit about Orange Grove?
Sure. Orange Grove was started in 1953 by parents of children with special health care needs. The landscape was not very hospitable to people with mental retardation, as it was known at the time. And of course, it was up to the parents to enact laws, legislation, and to actually take matters into their own hand. And they started out with a school that was given to them by the city of Chattanooga. It was a discarded school, and they used a lot of sweat equity to build it to what it is today. You know.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. I did not know that it was actually started by the parents of special needs children.
And they still have a very active part today as well.
Well, that's awesome. And you also, or I mentioned that you are the director of the Habilitation Center. Could you tell me a little bit about the difference between rehabilitation and habilitation?
Sure. Rehabilitation, as most people are aware of, is the retraining of skills to people that once had those skills and then lost them. Here in Chattanooga, we have the Siskin Hospital for Rehabilitation as well as Health South. And these are facilities that concentrate on helping people renew their skills once they experience trauma or neurodegenerative diseases or a fracture of a hip, etc. Our folks, the clients at Orange Grove, never had these skills to begin with. So we're not rehabilitating them, we're habilitating them. And the word habilitation actually comes from the Latin word habilis, meaning to make fit or to make suitable. And that's the mission of Orange Grove, is to make not only our clients more suitable by teaching them compensatory mechanisms, teaching them how to break down problems, but also making society a little more hospitable for them as well.
Is there anything that we can do as a community to help further that cause? We mentioned, talking before we got started, the use of the R word. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Right. Well, we say words mirror the mind, and although the word mental retardation had his historical roots in being very, very clear, precise medical definitions, again, it was basically abrogated by people to make fun of people that have differences. We have a history of using words to describe differences. We've had imbecile, idiot, etc. And although those were medical terms, eventually society captures those words and basically applies them to people with differences. So now the new culprit is the word retardation, and we're dropping that. We have now adopted the word intellectual disabilities, and it actually started with the President's Committee on Mental Retardation, and that was eventually morphed into the President's Committee for People with Intellectual Disabilities. The other thing regarding language is that we try to adopt what we call people-first language. So we wouldn't refer to somebody as an autistic student, but yet a student with autism. And sometimes it gets cumbersome, but we need to always reflect on putting the person first and the disability or the challenge second.
I really love that, though, putting the person first. No matter what we do in life, that's the way we should all be.
Absolutely.
So Orange Grove, they've got several programs, residential, educational. Could you tell me a little bit about some of those programs?
Sure. Orange Grove started out originally as a school for several reasons. One, there was no school program in the city to teach folks with developmental disabilities to be students and to learn and to be trained. Eventually, once those programs got underway and we started to see these folks were thriving, not only in school, but we needed to go to the next step, and that was to refine their capabilities to work in the workforce. And so the vocational program started. As a result of the vocational program being very, very flourishing in the city, these folks lived longer, and they have eventually outlived their parents. And so we needed to come up with a creative way to ensure that they would have a residential placement. So we started community housing. And we were the first agency in the state of Tennessee to actually have a residential program. And we've expanded that. We have our own medical clinic, our own dental clinic, physical therapy, occupational therapy, our own sensory integration department, etc. Despite the fact that we realize that the community should have these things for our individuals, and we spend a considerable amount of time and resources training professionals to eventually be equipped to take care of these folks. You know, we still have an obligation until that process is completed to provide these services for our folks in-house.
Wow, and if anyone, what are some of the things in the community that we can see? Is there any way that we can see that at work?
Well, actually, the most beautiful thing that you can see in the community regarding Orange Grove is what you can't see. And those are the folks that, like you and I, wake up in the morning and they're taken to a vocational spot, or they're taken to an educational program to learn to foster better work work ethics, better communication skills, and better completion skills. But we do see folks working in the community and living in the community. We have over 70 group homes, and they're scattered through the community. They're not congregated. And if you drove past one, other than a beautiful manicured lawn and maybe a van in the driveway, you wouldn't know that it is, quote, a group home.
Wow, I didn't over 70. That's amazing. Well, I'm going to get back to you for a second. You were a consultant to the Surgeon General. Could you tell me a little about that?
Yeah. Well, one of the beauties of my job at Orange Grove is that I was hired to be a medical futurist. Our population, folks with developmental disabilities, as recently as the 1960s, had a very short life expectancy. We didn't understand them, we didn't commit our resources to them, and quite frankly, we probably didn't see the point of extending their longevity. Wow. And they fooled us. They lived longer, and that was a challenge for Orange Grove. And in the mid-90s, the board of Orange Grove made a commitment to create my position, which is the only fully funded, dedicated position for a physician in the United States to concentrate strictly on the future medical problems of this population as they age.
Wow.
And as a result of some of the work that we've been doing in the Habilitation Center, it became remarkably impressed by the Surgeon General, and we have been invited to participate throughout the last 5 Surgeon Generals in the areas of health and disability.
And these are nationally recognized programs also, right?
Nationally recognized programs, right. Yeah.
So you are a one of a kind for sure. That's just amazing to me. You are the only person with that type of job.
Right. There are other physicians doing notable, credible work in the field of research in developmental disabilities in terms of the genetics and in terms of the aging process. But in terms of a global perspective of what does it mean to age with a disability, Orange Grove is really one of the pioneers in looking at it globally. For instance, we look at vocational and a job placement not just as a place for them to go during the day, but we recognize the neuroprotective attributes of working. When you work, you have a place that everybody knows your name, to quote the old Cheers line. But it's more than that. You know, there's a phenomenon called social affiliation, where you're part of a group, and we actually know that that has neuroprotective mechanisms through the immune system.
Wow.
So there's a purposefulness, which is why we see very, very often health concerns starting to crop up when people retire, because they lose that commitment, they lose that connectivity, and we don't want that to happen. So even after our folks have successful careers working in the community and they retire, which is a unique phenomenon for people with disabilities, we still have very, very active, very robust programs for them to stay connected to the community.
Wow, that's just amazing. Tell me a little bit about some of the things for families. I know that you guys work with families a lot. Tell me a little bit about that dynamic.
Well, families have been the heart and soul of Orange Grove, and they continue. And we look at families in several ways. We look at them especially in the areas of transition. What does it mean being the parent of a child with a disability, and then you are the parent of an adult with a disability? And along that pathway, there are great challenges. There's challenges of how to navigate the special ed maze. There's challenges on how to get programs supported by your insurance companies. There's programs on how do you go transition from school to work and from living at home to working and living in the community. So we have a very, very robust program of counseling for